their third season. On Chelsea, quite a lot of their fans today giving out a bit, slagging off Osimhen, saying that he's a bum, saying he's a loser, saying he's money hungry now that he's gone to Galatasaray. Do you guys agree with Chelsea fans that he was wrong for turning them down? Or do you believe that their offer they made to Osimhen, and we're hearing now that they made him an offer that, including bonuses and incentives if they got into the Champions League, would only have equated to £150,000 a week in salary? Do you think Chelsea have messed up here by not offering him a better contract and bringing him in? Or do you agree with the Chelsea fans that they've basically dodged a bullet for a mercenary here?
I don't. I think they've made a big mistake. I think if they would have got Osimhen, I think they could have got top four. No Osimhen, no top four. Because they'll miss too many chances, mate. You know what I mean? I was told this to Don. You know what I mean? Against City, they had chances, didn't take them. Against Palace, they had chances, didn't take them. Why? Because their forward players are inconsistent at getting the goals. And that's going to cost them over a 38-game season. I'm pretty confident if they would have signed Osimhen, they would have got top four. And now I don't think they will. I don't think they'll get top four. You know, there's already 2 games of evidence, the Palace game and the City game, where they might have got something out of the game if they had a decent striker. No decent striker, they lose one, they draw the other. Yeah, and at the end of the day, they can slag Osimhen all they want. It's irrelevant, mate. He's not at your club now, and you don't have a proper striker that can put the ball in the back of the net. He was there, available.
Why are they slagging him off? I don't understand why they're slagging him off. I don't get it.
I don't know. I don't know why they're doing that.
What's he done wrong? I don't get it. What, he didn't accept a low wage, so he went and got more money at Galatasaray playing the Champions League. Is that what it is? I don't really get this. Is this like
entitlement is what it is?
It might be the Europa League. I don't know. But either way, like they're not in the Conference League, I don't think, like Chelsea. So maybe he's looked at that and thought, actually, I want to go and play Champions League football. I want to be playing European football, not at that level. Listen, Chelsea should have got him. Done all they can to get him, because Jackson's an absolute mess in front of goal, as we saw against Palace and all the other games.
I'll read you one of the comments here from David, who's a Chelsea fan. So the news came out today that agreement now reached for a new release clause with Osimhen at Napoli ahead of Galatasaray. So his new release clause is now at 75 million euros. So it's now being reduced. He's done he obviously signed the deal as well. And these are the kind of comments I'm seeing from Chelsea fans. This is dreadful. Greed is a deadly sin. Ain't no one laying down that kind of money for him. He should basically, it's then alluding to, he should be paid less. Chelsea were right to avoid him. Do you think this is Chelsea fans putting out a bit of copium?
Chelsea know all about greed. Let me tell you that. Chelsea slagging someone off about greed.
That's bitterness.
I'm just reading out the comments.
No, it's bitter. They're salty, mate, because they didn't get him and now they're slagging him off. Yeah. And at the end of the day, if your club would have actually signed him, yeah, then you would be chill. Let's just speak about this. Yeah. You spent £1.5 billion, yeah, and you still don't have a decent striker and you still don't have a decent goalkeeper. Now, whether this new keeper turns out to be all right, Jorgensen, whatever, Don keeps on going about, I don't know. But he was there, available, and it could transform your season. You know what I mean? We all see the top teams when they got top strikers, what that can do for you. Yeah, and Osimhen, I just think if they would have got him, I think top four would have been theirs. But now I just don't think it is, because they'll drop too many points. They beat Palace at the weekend if they had Osimhen. They might have got a draw against City if they had Osimhen. They got 1 point out of a potential 6. That will keep on happening because the players that they have are inconsistent in front of goal. And, you know, for the Chelsea fans now just to be slagging Osimhen off when he's perfectly entitled to reject the offer. You can't force him to join, lads. You can't kidnap him. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, if he wants to reject it because you've not offered him what he wants, there you go. There's other strikers out there that he could have got as well. You didn't. So, listen, for me, I find it wild that Chelsea fans can even say anything about it.
I thought they were going to get Tony or Osimhen. I really did. I thought they were going to get one. And I was stunned that Arsenal didn't get a striker. I was even more stunned that Chelsea didn't, because Chelsea have literally got Jackson and that's it. Like, they've got nothing, have they, up top? They have to play Nkunku there or Palmer there or somebody like that, if not, I think. So for me, I was stunned they didn't do that. And I think without a goalkeeper and a striker, you can't really, in my opinion, achieve your goal of that season. And whether you're trying to stay up from relegation, whether you're trying to win a title, whether you're trying to sneak into the top 4, top 6, I think you have to have a goalkeeper and striker that you trust. And Sanchez isn't good enough, and Jackson isn't good enough in front of goal. Yeah, he scores goals, he creates, absolutely, but he doesn't score enough for me in front of goal. I think that he is very wasteful. So I look at Chelsea, and I think, look, LB's right in terms of they could actually go for top 4 with Osimhen. But I don't know if they're better than Villa or Liverpool. So which one of those two is dropping out? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, where are they getting in there? I don't even know they would with Osimhen.
I'll put Chelsea in 5th at the moment. If I'm based on what I've seen so far, I redid my predictions yesterday, and I put Chelsea in 5th place. In fairness, I put Spurs in 8th and Man United in 9th based on what we've seen so far. But and by the way, yes, I'm very, very, very aware that January exists. And you could go in and get him. What's really crazy, he's going to be getting paid £160,000 a week base at Galatasaray. So it shows that he was willing to not. He weren't asking for extortionate money. But the most I've read one thing from Damasio that the original offer was £65,000 a week, rising to potentially £130,000 a week if he scores a certain amount of goals and they make the Champions League. And I just sit there and think to myself, I just find that, and I understand they went to Napoli and they offered more and more, but the most, Fabrizio Romano has now said the most it went up to, including bonuses, was £150 a week. And I just think this is one thing that Chelsea fans, I think, need to push back on as fans, is we understand having a wage structure when you're buying an 18, 19, 20. I get it for Palmer when he comes in because he was still relatively untested, young, up-and-coming talent. Osimhen is not that. If you were signing João Felix 3 years ago, before he dropped off, you weren't getting him on £150 a week. If you signed Sancho from Dortmund, you weren't getting him on £150 a week. The problem that Chelsea may have is that some of these young players are going to become stars. Kyle Palmer had done it. A lot of them are not. There comes a point where you're going to need to buy some top-class players. And it could be, you've made top 4. And maybe they'll increase it once they're back in the Champions League. So that it could all become... this conversation could become immaterial in that way. But I just look at it and think, Osimhen, offering 150, 160 base, rising to 200 if you score all these goals and make the Champions League. If he started, he wouldn't have been able to have started the game because... But if he would have started that game, he scores one of those 2 chances at the end that Jackson has. He scores one of those 2 chances, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They win the game. And that is probably going to happen. What happened to Chelsea on Sunday, in my opinion, will happen 5 to 10 more times in the league this year, which is why I think they'll just missed out. I think defensively they're getting better with their main players. As soon as they take Fofana and Colwell out, they look more vulnerable. We saw that against Servette. But when their main 11 plays, they're getting stronger defensively. They play nice approach football. And look, you've seen it with the numbers back the eye test on this. They have overperformed their XG by a country mile because of that performance against Wolves. And Madueke, he got his hat-trick. You got to congratulate him. But 2 of his goals were big deflections as well. And that's not taking anything away from him. But it's going, well, in the other 2 games, you've massively underperformed your XG. That has to be a consideration for you as a football club.
Terry, how much is that worth to Chelsea then? Because you're saying what I'm saying, right? I don't think they'll finish 5th. I think they might finish 6th, yeah? But you're saying essentially the same as me. You don't think they're getting top 4 because they've not got a striker. So how much extra wages is it worth to pay Osimhen to say we've got a real chance there? Not 60k.
Well, if we look at it, it would have cost. So what he would have accepted, according to the media reports, he needed 80k more a year as a base. That's £4.1 million a year more he needed in base, and he would have signed for Chelsea. That's the difference between potentially getting Champions League football or not, which is worth what, 100 to 150 million pound a year in income.
So now they've got Jackson up front again.
If you turn around to me, LB, and I can't afford to pay those kind of wages. Let's scale it down to our level. Say like, listen, Terry, I guarantee you something, right? I can almost guarantee that if you pay me an extra £400 a month, right? I'm going to throw these numbers out there, but I guarantee you it will bring you in an extra 100 million views, right? Or whatever. I'm going, well, it's worth the money, isn't it? This is why I think it's a bad business decision from Chelsea. They may address it in January, but they might just miss out. They may just miss out because they haven't quite brought that killer in up front. And look, we could all be wrong in the end and go, do you know what? Fair play, Chelsea. But I don't know if we are. I just don't know if we are.
If the players score the goals, right? Because they've got good players. It's just the finishing. If they do well, like they did against Wolves, for example, or they get a bit lucky or whatever, or the players just find some hot patch of form, then they could be all right. But, these players that they have are inconsistent in front of goal. That's the problem.
No, I hear you on that. I hear you on that. Someone here says you guys should talk about our Arsenal friend in the Champions League. We already spoke about that an hour ago, bruv. Go back, rewind. We've been live a while. Runin here says based on his last season, he wasn't worth crushing the wage structure over. But no one's talking about crushing the wage structure. What we now know is that he wasn't demanding 350, 400 grand a week. What we now know, based on the number of reports from the likes of Damasio, from Fabrizio Romano, is a 150 to 160 base would have got him for. I don't think that's breaking your wage structure. That would, what you offered him, I mean, just say you offered him 130 as a base. That's about what you're paying Tosin, who doesn't start for you. So yeah, I do agree with you. Maybe it would have been a risk to go, there's 400 grand a week, bro. There's 400 grand a week.
I didn't want that.
But yeah, so I get where you're coming from, but and you said here, he said no, and that's fine. I love that we have stuck to their guns, wait for the right fit. Let me ask you a question then, Runin. What if you don't make the Champions League this year, partly because you didn't score enough goals? What would you reflect? Would you change your view, or is it all about sticking by the guns and not giving any player at your club more than £150,000 a week, circa 150 a week, maybe a little more, maybe a little less? Is that sustainable long term? And what happens when you do get back in the Champions League and Palmer's suddenly on 250, 300 a week, but then you want to sign another top player across Europe? Do you think that he'll have to come in on 150, or are they going to have to come in on big money like before? Like, how do you think it will work in your personal opinion? That's why Terry should apply context to our rebuild. I do apply context to your rebuild. I think in year one, your owners got it horrendously wrong. I think that you made improvements last year, and I think you're in a better space than you were now. I think each year so far you've got better. The context is that a lot of rebuilds make mistakes in the beginning. You look at FSG. Well, FSG weren't pulling up trees with Dalglish. They nearly won a trophy under Brendan Rodgers. It took them the better part of, I'm not going to say a decade. I think it took them somewhere in the region of about 6 or 7 years until Jurgen Klopp started challenging for major trophies to get it right. But that's when the rebuild begun. So I'm just pointing that out. Like for me, at Man United, I'm not going to restart the clock for Ineos every time we bring a new manager in, because that's letting them off. Because the modern day world, the clubs shouldn't be run by managers; they're run by the club. So I'm judging it by you can't judge it based on history. When Fergie got hired by Man United, he was then running the club. He was rebuilding the whole club. So you start the clock from when he came in, right? Rebuilding the whole thing. That's why when I hear people say, Jurgen Klopp, he won trophies at Liverpool before Fergie won trophies at Man United. But you're taking out the fact that Fergie did all those earlier years. Like, Klopp would not have been winning if he inherited the Roy Hodgson squad. It was a building process to that stage. I still can't fathom why football fans don't understand how modern day football works.
Yeah,
Pep is not doing what he's done the last 8 years. If he joined Man City in the summer of 2009, in the same time period from 2009 to 2016, he wouldn't have achieved what he'd done because City were building their infrastructure. That is when City's rebuild begun. Rebuilds don't begin with managers per se. They begin with the people running the football club, in my view.
Terry, right, there's a comment here, 4:55 p.m. from Dean. Chelsea are paying Sancho 200 grand a week for a player they don't need. How much are they paying Sancho?
They're paying the majority of his wage. It's 80 to 90%. So yes, about 200k a week they're paying him. That's right.
So they're paying. So this is where it all just doesn't make sense, boys, isn't it? Because you don't need Sancho. You got plenty of attackers. You got plenty of wingers. You're paying him 200 grand a week, and then a striker who you do actually need doesn't even want 200 grand a week. Apparently, what he said, 160, and now everyone's saying no, we were right not to offer him that because we didn't want to break our wage structure. This is where the whole thing just doesn't make sense to me.
Nah, it don't. Maybe Osimhen didn't want to sign 20 years at Chelsea like top wants.
But have you guys seen? I mean, all of our clubs do bad PR. I haven't watched Ugarte's interview today because I know what he said without watching it. Dream club, over the moon, amazing, historic. The chills on the back of my neck. I'm not saying he's wrong about all of it, but every player says the same thing. Have you seen what Sancho said?